Aloha mai kako. This is part 2 of my full review on the live action Lilo and Stitch movie. Continuing on with the cultural representation in the film, there was, in my opinion, a mishandling and misrepresentation of ohana, kuleana, and hanai. In the original, when Nani tries to take Stitch back to the shelter after he's creating chaos, Lilo scolds her and reminds her about ohana. Which, yes, it's a cheesy line, but it's true. Ohana means family, and you don't leave behind your family, and you don't forget about them. Nani remembers this lesson, and she gives Stitch another chance. Nani saw how much Stitch made Lilo happy, and how much she needed that. Nani sacrifices her comfort to do something nice for her sister. This was not only a beautiful moment, but planted a seed in Stitch for him to learn later on what ohana is, what family is. Then in the live action, we have Nani completely dismissing Lilo's ohana speech, telling her to live in reality with her. That is so cold. That was so out of character. What was the point in that? Stripping the story of the emotional growth for both Nani and Stitch and making the theme of ohana feel hollow. This was supposed to be the moment for Nani to learn to hold space for Lilo's heart, not shut it down. But instead, the live action shows her love and hope as childish and not sacred. Moving on to kuleana, it means more than just responsibility. It is a privilege and obligation that comes with being in relationship with people, place, and purpose. It is about knowing your role and doing what is pono, what is right. Not because you have to do it, but because you are connected to something greater than yourself. Nani's kuleana was taking care of Lilo after the death of their parents. In the original film, she knows that, she respects that, and she accepts that. She fights tooth and nail to keep Lilo and her together. Nothing and nobody was going to come in her way. And then they changed the ending completely, where Nani gives Lilo to CPS and then Tutu so that she can go to UCSD to study marine biology. First of all, we've had zero hints throughout the film of Nani's interest in marine biology. There was a few times where Lilo was telling Nani, "You're so smart, you should join the Marines," which is, attempt at a cute joke of her mistaking the Marines and marine biology, but I don't know, there's something about pushing military propaganda towards a people at a place that has been occupied by the American military and government for over 132 years. Like the original, the live action focused on Nani being a surfer. Surfing is her passion. She's had trophies, she has medals, she's trained for it. In the animated series, she ends up finding a job at a surfboard rental shop. If the writers really wanted to add on or change that she is an aspiring marine biologist, why didn't they show that to us? When making movies, when making art in general, it's about showing and not telling. It would have been so cool throughout the movie we see Nani teach Lilo about marine life. What if there was a moment where there are tourists trying to go up to a green sea turtle or a monk seal and Nani calls them out, educates them about being endangered species and that we have to protect them? This would have been a great representation of our community and the struggles that we face every single day, because this happens all the time. Just like how the original movie did regarding over-tourism, housing, cost of living, CPS taking away native families, and cultural appropriation. But this time around, Disney wanted to portray the aesthetics of our culture and people, and not our lived experiences. Also, how did Nani get into UCSD? Why was that her dream college? How does she get a full ride scholarship? Because that just doesn't happen in real life, and especially not to out-of-state students. Does this full ride scholarship cover all 4 years of her education, including tuition and housing and transportation and book and supplies and food and other personal things? I thought Nani was broke. How is it more financially better for her to go to an out-of-state college rather than going to an in-state college, paying less tuition, and actually qualifying for realistic scholarships? And she will be home, closer to Lilo, and closer to her community and her culture. And yes, Tutu says that UCSD is the best school in the nation for marine biology, but by whose standards? Does Nani want to be a marine biologist in Hawaii or California? What is her relationship with UCSD? Were her parents marine biologists? Did they go to that university? Why? Why were these decisions made? To me, this plot point was not well thought out at all, and it felt very last minute. And judging by the interview from screenwriter Chris Kekaniokalani Bright, this seems more of like a self-insert of his personal feelings and story onto a character that was already established and had her own story and had her own struggles. Plus, those of us born and raised in Hawaii have been told since childhood by many teachers and college counselors, even by parents, that the only way to truly succeed is to go to college on the mainland. That the schools up there are way better than the schools here. That the University of Hawaii is a safe school, and getting in there is not as prestigious as getting into a school on the continental US. And even though they weren't saying this in the movie, this narrative was still pushed onto it, and I really hate that. Moving past that, going back to the ending where they completely changed it and Nani gives up custody of Lilo. That just ruins the entire purpose of the movie. What was the point of Nani fighting so hard and looking for all of these jobs to keep Lilo when she just gives her up at the end? In the original film, Nani was grounded in love and sacrifice. In the live action, she's pressured to let Lilo go, and I'm supposed to call that empowerment? All of the emotional labor, all of the trauma of nearly losing each other. For what? A dream that was never built up and was never justified throughout the movie. And folks saying, oh, she's not going to a random family, she's going to Tutu and David. Yeah, the two characters that we barely saw in the movie. Which leads to the idea of, oh, this is the Hanai system. Yeah, this is a poor attempt at it. Treating it as a last-minute narrative tool. Who is Tutu? How has she helped take care of Lilo and Nani? How is she close to them? Maybe one way this movie could have shown that Tutu could take care of Lilo was her covering the medical bills after she almost drowns at the beach. Maybe flashbacks of her helping with funeral arrangements. Maybe coming over to bring food, maybe coming over to help clean up the house. Maybe Nani asking her, how do I pay a bill? How do I apply for health insurance for me and Lilo? And her showing that. We didn't get anything that shows this close relationship between Tutu and Lilo and Nani. And to the folks saying, well, Nani's just gonna go to school for a few years and then she'll come back to Hawaii and she'll take Lilo again. Yeah, that's not how it works. She gives up guardianship. She gives up custody. Lilo is not hers anymore. The state does not give a about that. If she wants to regain custody of Lilo, that's going to be another long process. And if something were to happen to Tutu and she dies, Lilo goes back to the state. None of this was thought through. Oh, and the whole portal gun thing, also a last-minute band-aid attempt. Nani has the portal gun so she can visit Lilo anytime she wants, so then what's the point of her leaving? If you're gonna go all the way, then go all the way. If you want Nani to leave Hawaii to go and study and create that distance between her and Lilo, then don't give her a portal gun and erase all of that emotional buildup. Plus, what about time zones? Would that mean that Nani has to get up 3 hours early to portal back to California to make it to her classes? Whereas if she went to the University of Hawaii at Manoa, yes, she will be on a different island, but they will be in the same time zone. And she could also possibly get away with not dorming on campus so she can portal 2 classes on Oahu and come back home on Kauai. But nope, can't do that because UH Manoa is not a good school. For what reason? We'll never know. The pacing of this movie was all over the place. It was rushed, uneven, and key emotional beats were either skipped or watered down. Plot points were completely changed. For example, Lilo asking Tutu to take her to the animal shelter so that she can get a dog versus Nani taking Lilo to the animal shelter to get a dog after she hears her prayer asking for a best friend. Erasing that act of kindness that Nani gives to Lilo so that she doesn't feel lonely. This movie did everything to erase any meaningful bonding moments with Lilo and Nani. In the original movie, Lilo runs away from Cobra's car after she overhears that he's taking her away, and he yells at Nani that she needs Lilo more than Lilo needs her. This makes Lilo upset. She doesn't want to be separated from Nani, and so she runs into the woods. Then she comes across Stitch, and she's mad at him because he just destroyed her house. He gives her the family photo back that's burnt around the edges, and she tells him, "You ruined everything." In the live action, we get none of that. No conflicts between Lilo and Stitch at all. No Lilo struggling to make him a model citizen. No them being irritated at each other. No them learning how to grow and respect each other. Their relationship was very fake, and I'm running out of time again. Part 3 coming up.